Up! Nope! Up! Ah! And then let's get out of here. God damn it. I saw dolphins one time when I was here. I didn't own a drone at the time and I didn't have a long lens with me. So now every time I come here, I'm like, man, maybe I'll see dolphins. That'd be cool. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. As you can see behind me, we're back at a beach doing some seascapes tonight. So all day it's been like a really overcast type of day. And as you can see out in the clouds, it still kind of is a sort of dark, thick cloud hanging over. But out in the direction of the sun, it looks like there might be some color happening tonight. It's super windy right now, so hopefully the audio isn't complete trash. So I've got about an hour before the sun goes down, which is great because it's going to give me a lot of time to wander down in the rocks, try to find a composition. So right now I'm up here sort of in a more sheltered spot, but we're going to head down soon, find a shot or two. But before we do that, I just thought I'd talk to you guys a bit about these. So I use filters pretty much every time I shoot anything landscape related. If you've watched my other videos, you'll notice I tend to use these almost every time I go out. But I don't often really talk about what they do and why they use them. I'll sort of just do it without explaining things. So I thought today would be a good opportunity to actually talk to you guys a bit about these and why I use them. So I actually own and use 3 different filters. 2 of them are in here, one of them is on the camera, and we're actually going to start with the one on the camera. So you've heard me talk about this before if you watch the videos. You'll probably see me putting it on awkwardly. This one here is called a polarizing filter. Now for the filter system I use, I have to have the polarizer screwed on anyway to be able to use the other filters. So for the most part, this tends to just stay on my lens at all times. But I find myself wanting to use it most of the time anyway, so that's not really a big deal. So the main benefit for me of using a polarizing filter is because I shoot a lot of seascapes, or if not seascapes, scenes that involve water, mist, wet surfaces, things like that. A polarizer filter is what you can use to combat any glare or reflective surfaces that you don't want in the shot. So for example, at a time like this, down near the water, we're going to be getting a lot of highlights popping up in the whites of the waves, glare on the rocks from residual water left over. So for me and what I do, that's kind of the main purpose of using the polarizer, is to deal with reflections, glare, and sort of harness those and use them how I want to use them in a shot. Depending on the polarizer you've got, it can also add a lot of vibrance to your shot. Darken your skies, add a bit more of a deep color palette, which if you're a landscape photographer, can give you sort of a more accurate way of capturing colors. Now the second filters I use are both the same thing, just different versions of the same thing. They're just ND filters. So I have a 10 stop, which is this one here, and a 6 stop, which is incredibly scratched up. So ND filters I just use to get long exposure in my images. Essentially all they do is darken the amount of light that's getting into your camera by a certain amount of stops. So 6 stops and 10 stops in my case. And a stop is just a way of measuring light. So by darkening the amount of light that gets into your camera, you can slow your shutter speed down, get those dreamy long exposure shots, blur out water, blur out sky movement, all that kind of stuff, which makes us landscape photographers feel a lot better about what we do and make us feel more professional pretty much. I like using ND filters. I like long exposure images, even if just up to a second or so. I like that effect on my work at least. Having a 10 stop filter, and depending on what sort of aperture you're using, you can get up to 30 second, up to a minute even, depending on the conditions, exposures, which for me is usually a bit much, but to each their own. I usually stick to around a few seconds or so for seascapes and things like that. So yeah, that's basically it. You probably already knew all that, or have heard it explained to you much more concisely than I did. Let's head down to the water. Now I'm not super keen to get wet today. Not that I really ever am. But I think today I just can't be bothered, to be honest. I'm sure I'll be able to cut to a second when I'm absolutely soaked. But I'm going to try to avoid it if possible. So I'm just going to hang around the edge of the water here where the waves are hitting and try to find a composition where the waves are interacting with these deep black rocks. And then angling my shot up this direction, because that's where the sun might light up if it does. So I'm just going to have my camera switched on in live view and just try to find something that looks kind of decent. I've also got my tripod legs extended all the way. Usually I'm as low as possible. But I think today I want to try for a different kind of angle than I usually shoot. Joke's on you, ocean, I've got gumboots on. Looks like there's a fire burning out that way, which looks pretty cool. Hopefully everyone's okay, but it does look cool. Speaking of things looking cool, something that bugs me sometimes is that people love to overcomplicate photography. And I think for me it's just like, sometimes things look cool and you want to take a photo of it. It doesn't have to be like a strict formula or rules to everything, or things that are right about one photo and wrong about another photo. Sometimes you just see something and you're like, that looks cool, I don't know why, but I want to take a photo and this is what I want to do. And you just kind of intuitively find a way of shooting it without thinking about like rules. In other news though, I think the sky is actually going to light up, at least for a little bit until that thick bank of clouds takes over. Ah! So I've found this section here where there's like a little cliff in the rocks happening, and then there's water channeling through and hitting a rock that's sitting right in the middle of that little channel. So it's a spot where I'm getting a lot of movement happening, but also have a solid subject right in the middle of the bottom of the frame. So I'm just going to switch over to video quickly and show you guys on this camera what the polarizer does. Don't worry about the highlights being blown out. Whoop! Don't worry about the sky being blown out, because I'm just going to crank my ISO for the video to show you guys. As I spin the polarizer, you can see the glare right now in the bottom of the shot here is pretty full on as I get to where the polarizer isn't activated, around there. But as I spin it, the blacks really start to pop and we lose all the sort of messy glare and reflection. Alright, time for me to stop messing around and try to get this photo. Alright, so I'm going about half a second now, and I'm just timing when the wave either comes in and hits my subject or rushes out around the subject, just to get the best of that movement happening. The issue you do get with a lot of movement happening is it's hard to focus if you're trying to focus down low on your subject. So for me in this case, I'm just focusing to infinity and then shooting at f12, f13, where I'm going to get everything hopefully in focus, so I don't have to worry about nailing the focus on one certain point. Alright, that's about the end of the light. Let's take a look at that photo and then let's get out of here. Damn it. Alright, well, hopefully that photo turned out okay. I'm always worried about that when I do one of these videos and the whole thing is based around this one photo being good looking, and then I haven't even seen the photo by the time I'm talking about it as if it's good. But yeah, the light's all gone. A lot of clouds rolled in, as you can see, all around me. So I'm going to get out of here, put the camera away, head back to the car and call it. Thank you as always for coming around and watching this video. If you're new here, I've noticed a few people have joined the channel since my last video. Yeah, it's really cool to see, so thank you if you're new. But if you're old too, not old in age, old in terms of how long you've been watching, but if you're old in age too, thank you. This is about the 4th video I've attempted to film since the last one. Things just keep going wrong, or I'm not happy with the photos, or my microphone decided to die, or I didn't charge it, or I get to a waterfall and it's not flowing. Things like that. So I have been attempting to make more of these videos, just things don't work out sometimes. Well, until next time guys, thanks again, and I will see you soon. I'm wet.